welcome to Behind the Camera Quick Cuts, a behind the camera series that focuses on streamers and content creators talking about their journey, the highs and lows, and everything that made them who they are behind the camera. My guest today, you may know for his blindfolded Mario 64 DS speedruns and other speedruns, or also you might know him for his magical ability to play Mario Kart whilst also playing the keyboard. But we will get into all of this. My guest today is Funkopotamuswes. Wes, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. It is lovely to have you on the show. So let's go right back to the beginning, man. So what got you into streaming as a whole and even gaming as well?
Well, gaming, I've just been doing it my whole life. I've always played video games with my siblings and my cousins and such. And I didn't really get into like this serious, like I guess speedrunning and gaming challenges or content creation in general until about, I want to say, my last couple years of high school.
Mm-hmm.
I started dabbling in unique video game instrument challenges, all because I came across this random video on YouTube, which I was directly inspired by. It's called Piano Kart Wii DK Summit, and it's just this guy who had a Wii remote strapped to his face and was just steering with the tilt controls while playing DK Summit on the piano. And I was like, this is so cool. There's a lot of potential here. Unfortunately, that was the only video they posted of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, at the time, I wasn't really that experienced with the piano, but I did have some other musical experience. And the idea of playing video games and instruments at the same time was just like such a cool concept. To me, I had experience doing marching band. I was like, it's basically the same idea, but instead of marching on the field, you're just playing video games.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like playing video games, so I decided to start dipping my toes in the water of that concept.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Because like that's how the first time I ever saw you live on TikTok, that's what I seen. And I think we talked about it in your stream briefly at one point a while ago, where your old setup was your camera pointing towards like essentially the back of your head, and you were playing the keyboard to Mario Kart 8 on the Switch. And like, how did you kind of figure out the logistics of being able to do it, especially with the Switch controllers?
So actually, when I started posting on TikTok, like I didn't know I wanted to like make content and stuff. I didn't even start with Mario Kart.
Mm-hmm.
I just did like some small little challenges, like I did some Guitar Hero stuff where like I would play Guitar Hero like 2 players, so one controller with my hands and then the other controller with my feet, or I would do the same idea of like actual instruments in video games with like Wii Fit. I did the step aerobics while playing the saxophone at the same time. And like I kind of posted this stuff, but I didn't really like try to get it like seen. It was mostly just for sharing with my friends and stuff. Once I finally decided to try doing the piano in the Mario Kart, I did pretty much exactly what the original inspiration Acme Gone did, which was with the Wii remote on the head and then just playing and playing. And at the time, like I was really, really inexperienced with the piano. I like the only reason I could do it was because I built up enough muscle memory so I didn't have to think about what my hands was doing. And I could only make it through like 1 lap, maybe 2 laps occasionally. And I posted a couple videos on TikTok and it kind of did well. And then I went back to school for my sophomore year of college, and I kind of didn't really touch it ever since until like the next summer. And the next summer was the next summer I decided to try learning a new track. Because the first track I learned was DK Summit, because it's just such a good track.
Oh yeah.
But I finally decided to try it again, learning a new theme, and it was the Mario Raceway theme, very iconic. The right, and because at this time I've only done it with Mario Kart Wii because that's what the original did. I thought I could try to bring it to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because you can do the same thing just with a Joy-Con. It might even work better because the Joy-Con is, it's a lot smaller. It's a little more comfortable to wear on your head. And that summer is when things started to actually take off with my content. I want to say I posted the two videos of Mario Kart Wii, and then I kind of did the same tracks, I guess, or the same themes in the Mario Kart 8 version. Because the themes sometimes get reused for different tracks, and some of the videos started to get pushed, and because especially since my TikTok account is so new, I think, I'm not really an expert with algorithms, but because it was so new, it really started to push it, I guess. And because so many people were seeing it, there was a lot of ideas being thrown around, especially with pushing me to see how far we can push this concept. Hey, try doing, a lot of people jump straight to the difficult stuff. Try doing 200cc. Try racing CPUs and winning a race. Try doing tricks by shaking your head to use the motion controls to do tricks. Or try playing online is a big one, which I mostly stayed away from because of, I'm not gonna have a chance at that at this early stage. But mostly I focused on just trying to learn more tracks, and because people were finding so much interest in it, I thought maybe I could try to live stream it once I got access to live streaming, and that was probably one of the best decisions because once I started live streaming, I knew about 8 tracks only, and I mostly just leaned my head. I didn't even do the tricks. I did the tricks once for a video, but I was it was just hard and not really good for the head to just be shaking the head constantly to do tricks. But because I started live streaming, people would show up and they would, ask, how can you do this? How can you do that? Or can you do this? Can you do that? And I'm like, no, this is what the limitations are. And then someone had the idea, they're like, what if you had a second Joy-Con in front of you so that you can easily press buttons? Because I would reach behind my head occasionally if I had time in the music to use an item.
Yeah.
And it worked. It made the game more interesting trying to use items in that context. But it was a good idea to have another Joy-Con in front of you so you could hit the button easier. The only problem with that was it doesn't solve the problem that you have to stop playing the music in order to hit the button. And I was like, the only way that would work is if I press the button with my foot. And so after that stream, I played around with the idea and quickly discovered that because there's the two Joy-Cons, they're connected, they're still linked together. And when you're playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it takes the motion controls from both of the Joy-Cons. So if I have one on the floor and then I'm steering with the other, I can't steer fully in a direction because it's taking the net I guess force,
Yeah, I know
the
what you
net
mean.
input from both of them. So if you want to steer fully in a direction, you have to lean both of the controllers to get that. And since I already can't drift, like I need to be able to do that. In fact, because I couldn't drift in the early days, I would specifically use inward drifting vehicles inside the game because that allows you to make sharper turns without drifting.
Mhm.
And like part of what these challenges are about is just the limitations and having to approach video games in different ways. Not just like how you play the game, like physically with the controller, but how you approach the gameplay itself. So inward drifting was a big part of it at first. And as I was investigating the second controller idea, because I needed to steer with both, I'm like, I can't just press it with my foot. I have to strap the controller to my foot so I can steer with both controllers and have access to pressing buttons. And I also found that if it's strapped to my foot, there's actually two buttons that I can press: the bumper with my toes, and then I can push the joystick into the ground using my foot. So with two buttons available, the most important were drifting and using items. And I tried it out and it worked pretty well. I was still on the fence about like doing it
Yeah.
all the time, but eventually I stuck with it, and like surprisingly I just kept getting better and better. I mean, when I first started, I sucked. I mean, these activities, they're not something your brain's going to be used to. And like with a lot of things, like you just are not good at the beginning. But what I've found with making this content is like the more you stick with it, if you just keep doing something, even if it doesn't feel like it, your brain will just like gradually get used to it, and you'll suddenly be surprising yourself with like, oh, I didn't know I could do this.
Yeah,
I didn't know I was gonna get to this level when I first started. And
definitely.
it's all thanks to like all the people who are trying to push me, like, hey, try this. And like a lot of times I think people are just joking, like, oh, now you got to do Rainbow Road on 200cc winning a race. Like, okay, we don't have to jump that far, but now I can do that.
Yeah.
And like at the time I didn't know I was gonna get to here, so it's really cool.
Yeah, it's like
And
really fascinating as well because like you mentioned about like the limitations. That's what these challenges are about. But you're kind of learning about the limitations because of like chat suggesting all these things that you might not necessarily think of. And
mhm.
like I think even just sort of getting into the position at the very beginning is quite innovative in itself. And one thing I've always been curious about though, how do you like speed up then? Like is that just like automatic with the settings you have, or do you have to like have like the A button constantly pressed down, or what way does that work?
Yeah. So originally just use a rubber band or a hair tie to hold the button down.
Oh wow, okay.
In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I still do that for time trials especially. But if you're not playing on time trials, you do have access to auto accelerate, which does the exact same thing
Yeah.
basically. In time trials, it's disabled, so you have to use a hair tie. But if you're playing versus mode, you can turn that on. You can also turn on smart steering, and that could certainly be a good way to start off if you're brand new at the challenge. I never did because I just think it's too easy. Like with smart steering and auto accelerate on, you don't really have to do anything. You will complete the race.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not using smart steering forces you to actually try to it pushes you to actually try to focus on both.
Yeah.
And the ultimate goal is to mostly only focus on the game, because the more you practice the piano or whatever instrument you want to play, the more you practice that, the less you actually have to think about it, because the music's going to be the same every time. It's just muscle memory. With the gameplay, you know, Mario Kart especially, you have to react to a lot of things. So you'd rather be focusing on the gameplay.
So then, like, whenever you like learn the songs and all, like that's kind of all well and good. Like, you know, your muscle memory's there, but like when you incorporate that into the game, like for the first time, were there like certain nuances where you kind of had to like focus a little bit more, or like sort of shift your focus in between, just because it's like, yeah, it's like, you know, the song, you can play it off by heart, but when you add the dynamic in of the game, like it, you mean, it's the sort of most usage of muscle memory I've ever heard of, with you're utilizing every single muscle in your body by the signs of it.
Yeah. The process from my experience is I spend time learning the music, I build up the muscle memory, I make sure it's up to tempo for not just the first 2 laps, but the third lap, especially, it gets sped up even more. And once I put it with the game, so I've done all this work to get up to here. You put it with the game, and suddenly your brain forgets how to do everything. So you take a few steps back when you're putting it with the game, and you have to like focus on like not messing up the piano.
Yeah.
So learn the music, put it with the game, relearn the music while having the game going on, I guess. And then once you're comfortable with the music, you start to focus more and more on the game.
Yeah.
So, like, once I put it with the game, I am not thinking about the game at all. I'm not trying to play the game well. I'm just trying to focus on making sure the music is good. And once I'm more and more comfortable with the music, and sometimes it's the beginning of the music is hard, and later in the music it's easy. I focus more on the game when I'm most comfortable with the music. And then gradually you just get better and better.
Yeah, because like at the same time as well, when you get into the third lap of every race, the music fastens, it goes a lot quicker as well. And does it go up an octave as well, or is it just speeds up in the same key?
It goes up a semitone.
Semitone,
so
yep.
if all the keys were shifted up once, I'm not really interested in learning every single theme in 2 different keys. So I just use the transpose feature on my keyboard to do it for me. If I was more experienced at the piano, I think it could be fun to try to do that, but
no, it's totally
I'd
fair.
rather not.
Yeah, it makes sense, especially when you talk about limitations and stuff. There's like limitations in terms of what you can do with the game, but also what you can do personally based on your own kind of experience with like your your ability on the keyboard and stuff. It's really fascinating though, sort of seeing everything that kind of goes into it in terms of like logistically the mechanics of it as well, because I think this, to the casual viewer, it's probably something that just looks like, you have it strapped to your head and that's it, you're just playing, because that's, it probably just looks like what they can see. But like seeing everything that kind of goes into it is really fascinating. And more recently, you have gotten into blindfolded speedrunning, particularly Mario 64, DS, and New Super Mario Brothers Wii. Is that the other one you've been doing as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually started with Super Mario 64, the original.
Oh, the original, yeah.
Yeah.
And so what was the inspiration into getting into blindfolded specifically, especially with all the sort of weird and wonderful challenges for video gaming that we have?
Yeah. So, because Mario Kart was going so well, like I thought it would be really cool if the same concept would work with like other games. We'll get to the blindfolded in a moment, but the first thought that came to mind was New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Could I play that game while playing the music? Because a 2D platformer like seems pretty simple controls, like lean left to go left and right to go right, and because I have the buttons now, all I really need is like run and jump mostly. And because I had this idea and I wanted to investigate it, I I also wanted to get like upgrade my streaming setup, because at the time I was just using TikTok on my phone, and I just had to set up the camera from behind me, get the perfect angle. I had to stack boxes on a with a tripod, and all the audio was room audio. Like, my streams have come a long way from the very beginning, and it's nice that if you want to get into streaming, you can just start with TikTok, like using your phone like that. And like, it's been super helpful for someone who doesn't have all the equipment to do streaming. And because I wanted to upgrade that, I wanted to investigate this new idea. I wanted a PC to do other things, like for school and for projects and for a lot of things. I decided to finally get myself a PC. And because I was able to do that, it also opened my it opened up how do I say it? The possibilities, I guess, for blindfolded speedrunning, which I had been following, like Bubzia, who does blindfolded SM64 and all sorts of other things, for a while. And when I found out he was like working on a new tutorial for blindfolded 16 star, I kind of just took that as an opportunity to try learning that on my PC, using like Project 64 to emulate, because I don't have access to like the actual. And well, I do have an N64, but I didn't have access to like streaming that kind of stuff, especially in college. So I kind of took that opportunity with my new setup to try learning that. And at the same time, I was also learning the new Super Mario Bros. Wii piano stuff, which had been going just as well as the Mario Kart, I would say. And from then on, I just kind of stuck with doing blindfolded speedruns and the multitasking challenges. And after learning blindfolded 16 star, thanks to the tutorial, I kind of stepped away from that to focus on other projects, especially New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which I had the privilege of getting to perform a speedrun of that at Awesome Games Done Quick in 2025. And after that, I thought maybe I could try to learn that game blindfolded, because like my first blindfolded experience, I just followed the tutorial. But what I like enjoyed so much about blindfolded is it again is another example of like limitations. Like, you are limited to only using audio, and it forces you to approach the game in a very different way. Blindfolded gaming, I often explain, is sort of like solving a puzzle. You have to be creative and resourceful with your strategies to find consistent ways to beat levels using only the audio. Like, I thought it's such a cool idea. It's a very different activity from gaming or even my multitasking gaming. Like, they're all very separate activities and unique and fun in their own ways. So I wanted to try doing a game that hadn't been beaten before blindfolded. New Super Mario Bros. Wii had many people who have learned levels blindfolded, and even a Discord server dedicated to, I guess, routing blindfolded for that game. And so I kind of investigated. I joined the community and quickly found out that no one had done it before, but there's only a few things that are kind of, I guess, barriers. One level being 8-1 with the random rocks that fall. RNG is not really the most friendly thing in blindfolded gaming. And then also the Bowser fight. But other than that, a lot of the other levels were very well possible to do blindfolded. So I started with trying to figure out the main problems, like trying to solve the levels that hadn't been done or are very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could do that, learning the rest of the game would be increasingly more easy. So
Yeah.
start with the hard stuff and then kind of work my way backwards. That was my approach with that game, and I think it paid off. And not only did I finally achieve it after a few months of preparing and routing, but I stuck with it, and again, with like all of the people who found it interesting, there was like a lot of good ideas thrown around that could help as I streamed my like learning process. Like um it really is, there's a lot of community, especially in the blindfolded world. Like lots of ideas get shared around, and it's it can be very, sometimes you just need a different perspective.
Yeah, for
You're
sure.
trying to figure out a level and like nothing's working, and then someone comes along and says, "Why don't you try it like this instead?" And then you're like, "Wait, I like what you're thinking."
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because, like, sometimes you do need the eyes on your screen where you don't have them to be able to, like, if you do this, because then, you're going off the audio cues, you can figure that out based on that. And it's actually interesting because I had Bubsy on the show 18 months ago or so, and it was, I never realized how sort of widespread the blindfolded speedrunning community is. Like, I didn't realize it was as big as it was. And I think he got into it like very, very early, of course, but like even now, I think it's one of those things that's kind of, you'd only really ever hear of a few people doing it, like Bubsy, yourself, of course. And one thing that I quite like about your setup is the fact that you will show your screen, all your screens, to show that there is no gameplay on the screen, and people still don't believe that it's real, which is like the amazing thing, because it's like, what more proof do you need? And you even went as far to make a long TikTok video explaining everything that goes into it and how literally, like, a sort of idiot proof explanation as to how what you're doing is real. And like, do you feel like that's helped in a way, putting out that video, putting out that explanation? Do you feel like that's helped like a lot of the non-believers, we'll call them?
Yeah, I think it's helped a lot. Not with like, not just with everyone who watches, but also with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's been giving me a whole new perspective in life in general. Because again, like you said about having the second camera showing the monitors. Originally, I didn't do that, and the reason being, it's completely optional. For blindfolded gaming. Like, it's not really about what you see the person wearing. Yes, you're required to wear a blindfold. It's a part of the rules. But what you see in the gameplay itself, what is the person doing, is just as much proof, if not more. Because if someone was to fake a blindfold speedrun, which has happened numerous times, you can, like, someone who's educated on how it works can very easily point out, this is not how a blindfolded gamer would have done this. Like, so the gameplay is the most important part. Like, what strategies they're using, whether the strategies can be replicated by other people. Like, those are the things that are considered when verifying a blindfold run, which I don't verify. But that's what they do. Is like, there's plenty of ways to do that, but that's if you know how blindfolded gaming works.
Yeah.
I stream on TikTok, and because I stream on TikTok and I have a second camera anyway because of my other stuff, I figured it would be nice to just have a second camera showing my monitor, just for that extra push for, because most people on TikTok, they show up to my streams and they don't know me. They don't know anything about how blindfolded gaming works. They might be seeing it for the first time. And I understand that. And I understand that the internet is a place full of lots of baiting and misinformation everywhere, not just in my specific niche. And so I recognize that. And yeah, some people do react in, maybe a little extra ways.
Oh yeah.
But like I've gotten past that, and I just like I see someone who doubts and I'm like, I understand. What do you want me to do to help? What are your questions? Because like once you get past that initial reaction of like blindfolded gaming, what? That's not possible, and he's playing this game better than I did as a kid. That's obviously fake, right? Well, I mean, you want to learn how? Because
Yeah.
it's once you start to learn how it works, it opens up everything. Like you start to actually think about, well, if that's possible, maybe we can do this. Like
Yeah.
what are the limitations with blindfolded gaming? And there certainly are some.
100%. Like I've heard people say before, if there's ever a game that you wish you could play for the first time again, either speedrun it or do it blindfolded. And it really just opens up your entire world. Now, I've never tried any form of blindfolded, blindfolded gaming in any way, let alone speedrunning. Like I was never the best speedrunner when I did it, but you still enjoy it, and it does help you see like everything in like a new kind of way. And even non-blindfolded, like even visual speedrunning, like you do get people come in still and be like, no, this is fake, this is pre-recorded, this. And like I know on your setup you also have like your text boxes that will kind of go over being like, okay, explaining everything quite detailed, like how this all works. And my favorite one actually out of that is like, oh, why are you ignoring chat? It's like, well, like look at the blindfold, but like again, it's like it goes back to what we're saying, like
you gotta throw in some.
Oh yeah, like the internet's just kind of full of people are very quick to sort of like see what they see without kind of reading the detail.
There's a lot of comments that like you can't really tell if they're being serious or not. And that's something I've learned is if there's one piece of advice I could give everyone for anything, it's to not make assumptions. Because like you see someone say something and you have the problem of like, okay, are they serious? Do they think that I'm actually faking? Are they calling it fake as a joke by parodying the people who do think it's fake? Are they saying it's fake not because they think it's fake, but because they just want a reaction out of other people? Like there's so many possibilities, and especially in like the streamer world, like you're just reading text, and when you read a text, you can't fully understand how they meant to say it. Like you have to try to interpret their message the way that they intended. And in a lot of cases, no matter what you do, like you simply can't just assume what their intentions are.
No.
So I just try to approach everything the same way. Like give everyone a chance. Like it's such a valid reaction to think it's fake, especially if they're completely new to the content. So I've taken a really big education approach to my streams, and like you said, having the text box on the screen, I mean, even with the piano stuff, when I started the piano streams, even in the simple days when all I had was a Joy-Con on my head and all I did was lean, I didn't even have a foot controller yet. It was simple.
Yeah.
People thought that was fake, which is like kind of crazy because I go back to do the Mario Kart streams now with the more complicated setup, and no one calls it fake, which is like kind of crazy because like in the early days, like so many people thought it was fake.
That's
So
just, yeah, that's
like
incredible because
I've
like,
just always I've always just tried to provide the information as clearly as I can, and I've tried so many different approaches, and no matter what I do, there is going to be people that miss it,
mhm.
and I've just kind of accepted that. Um,
Yeah. And like,
no matter what,
I definitely think
try
you
to be
have like a lot
helpful.
more tolerance and patience than other streamers, especially coming in and just, you know, unloading on streamers being all, I know this is fake, this, that, and the other. It's like, well, you've never seen it. So kudos for that, because that's like, I think that's a very difficult thing to do at times, you know? So looking at throughout then the course of this year, like, do you have any plans to like undertake any new kind of projects, or do you have any like specific goals with what it is that you're doing right now?
Yeah. So I just finished a big project. I have been gradually chipping at the Super Mario 64 DS
Mhm.
blindfolded 50 star. Um, because initially when I did Super Mario 64 DS, my goal was the 8-star route,
Mhm.
which is supposed to be shorter, but it does utilize more glitches to skip the game. I did achieve that. I don't remember exactly when. It was last summer, and it was such a difficult speed run because, like, I mean, most of it wasn't that difficult. Even the glitches, they weren't that bad. It's just that you have to spend like so much time just attempting the same thing over and over again and hope you get it. So for blindfolded, it's technically hard to time it, but like it's very low risk.
Yeah.
If you mess up, you just try again. And so the speed run is like half of the 250 2-hour, what, 250, where did I get that? 2 hours and 30-minute speed run. Half of it is just me attempting a glitch over and over. So after doing that, it was a one and done for me. I was like, 50 star would be a much better category to attempt because less time spent doing glitches and more time spent just getting stars.
Yeah.
So I spent about, I think, 6 months of just chipping at that, learning that gradually over time. And I just recently finished doing my first few runs of that category. And now that I've kind of done that, I have kind of moved on back to New Super Mario Bros. Wii. And just recently, I started learning more levels in that game to do another longer category, which is any percent no World 5. And then I also recently got back into learning and practicing the piano for the Mario Kart stuff, which I have been like especially over the past year and a half. I haven't been doing much Mario Kart because I've been focusing on the New Super Mario Bros. Wii.
Mhm.
For a few months, I also did piano and Super Mario 64 and doing all these blindfolded projects. I'm not sure if you can tell, but like I jump around a lot, and
Yeah.
I think that's the way I like it. I'd rather spend not as much time focusing on really 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 big projects and instead try doing a bunch of different things
Yeah.
because like you got to keep it fresh for yourself. And if you only stick with one thing for a long time, you're not always going to be in the mood for that one thing.
Oh yeah.
I've been really motivated lately, and I think it's because I have so many options of what I can do. And even like nowadays, like sometimes I don't do either of those things, and I just do another little side quest. I've done a couple playthroughs using a Wii Fit board, Wii Balance board, as a controller to beat a Mario game. And the best part about that is it was one of the most difficult challenges I've ever done, and that's saying something.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very difficult, and the best part about it is it took like no preparation. I got the controls working, and once you get the controls working, you just kind of jump into the challenge. You don't have to learn a song.
No.
You don't have to come up with strategies. It's just you and the difficult controls. And it was a lot of fun. I'm going to return to that at some point for sure.
Yeah. I love that. I love like the innovation that goes into these things and just everything that kind of makes and really keeps gaming entertaining in whatever way that you can make it. Like I think that's fantastic. And I just want to say, Wes, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on Behind the Camera Quick Cuts. Really been interesting learning about what goes into sort of all these different types of gaming challenges and everything. But just before we wrap up, I would just like to give you the floor for the listeners live here on TikTok and also watching on YouTube. Where can the listeners find you and your content?
Yeah, so I'm on mainly Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. I also post a lot of reels on Instagram, but nothing special there. I post the same videos on TikTok as well. And for all of them, Funkopotamuswes is my username. I have 2 YouTube channels. The one I've been posting the most on is the one that I do my speedruns, live streams, and stuff on. That's Funkopotamuswes Speedruns. And then my main channel, Funkopotamuswes, is quite new, and I'm trying to make new types of videos. I'm trying to spend time making like proper, what's the word? Long
Yeah, long form.
Long form.
Yeah.
Long form videos explaining like challenges and like blindfolded speed runs and stuff. So if you're interested in learning a lot more, that's also a good place to check out my stuff.
Amazing. Well, once again, Wes, thank you very much for your time. This has been episode 3 of season 2 of Behind the Camera Quick Cuts. And if you like what you heard, definitely be sure to check out the full podcast Behind the Camera on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, anywhere you can get podcasts. Also, I am on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of the socials under Behind the Camera Studios, on Twitter, Behind the Camera Pod, and also, if you'd like, be sure to check out my recent book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far. Once again, this has been episode 3 of season 2 of Behind the Camera Quick Cuts. My guest today has been Funkopotamuswes. Until next time, stay creative, take care, and we'll see you soon. But until then, peace.